Hey, good morning. Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. How are you all today? Second cup of coffee. It is started off to be another beautiful day. Man, I tell you. Gonna tell you an interesting story today. Do I need to hit on a couple of things? Before I get to that, welcome to all of the new people, both on YouTube and on Patreon, and a special welcome to those of you who have jumped up to the Stonemont level on Patreon. For those of you maybe on YouTube that don't know what that is, come on over and join us and check it out. It's the next level after the entry level that allows people to kind of, communicate directly with me, ask questions, let me get back to them on their particular questions and situations. I have been shocked, by the way, at how many people have come up to there. I didn't ever expect this many to come up to the Stonemont level, but it's great to have you all there. And it's becoming quite a community. It really is. I've come to look forward to every day. One of the first things that I do is come on and look at the comments and look at the messages that people have sent to me and such, and it is quite the thing. And this kind of goes to those of you who haven't yet come over to Patreon. One of the best reasons to do it, in addition to the fact that I put other stuff on Patreon that I don't put on YouTube, is the community over there. We got some exceptionally sharp people over there, and the information that they share is an education in itself. A couple of things to that. People were putting on their gardening news today, how their gardens have done this year. As a matter of fact, I was just out this morning. Somebody asked me how mine were doing. Pretty well. I tell you, there were some that didn't do so well. The corn didn't do well this year at all. I bought some specialty corn from Baker Seed, and it didn't do well, but I don't rely on corn. To be honest, corn is more trouble than it's worth. As long as you can still buy it in the store, it's just as cost effective to do that. But I keep it going just to keep my hand in it, and I tried different strains of corn, and I put in a couple of specialties from Baker Seed this year, and they didn't do well. But one of the two reasons that I do the corn is because Kelly likes to decorate the house and stuff for fall, and while everybody else is going out and buying these corn stalks at the grocery store, well, we have our own. So I just cut them out of the backyard, and there we have them. So I guess I grow them as much for ornament as anything. The potatoes did well. I'm going to go out and dig up more potatoes either today or tomorrow. I'm kind of busy today. The peaches did very well. I didn't think they were going to at first, but we had our first picking from a freestone line. Did well, and I've got some other trees just now coming in, and they're not a freestone, but they are good, and they bore so heavy that it broke a couple of the branches. And I don't really keep my peach trees pruned that well, nor do I thin them. And maybe I ought to save this for another gardening, but I'll make it quick. I used to go through the whole thing of, thinning the peaches a couple of times a year, making sure that there was one only every 4 to 6 inches so you get nice big peaches. Well, essentially what you're doing then is picking peaches 3 times a year instead of once. And I came to my own conclusion, not scientifically proven, but it's my opinion, that if I just let them go, they don't get as big, but I get a lot more of them, and I imagine that the mass itself comes out to be, probably right out there, maybe a little bit more. Who knows? So I have some more peaches to pick. The apples are coming in great. Probably next week when I start picking the apples. This is the largest bunch that we'll have this year, and I'm really happy that they're coming in. So we'll make apple pie and applesauce, and I'm a big believer in fruits and berries. The vegetables aren't that calorie dense, but they're good, and you get a lot of micronutrients from them. The peppers and the tomatoes are coming back after we've had a really hot spell. They don't do well over 90 degrees, but they're coming back, and So it's it's been a mixed year. It's been a good year. I know some people. So I'd be interested to hear all this leading up to me saying I'd be interested to hear your experiences this year in your garden, if you garden, and if you don't, I suggest that you start learning about it. And the people over on Patreon have already started sharing theirs. Another thing that I'll put up here today, I'm going to go over to the range. Before I get to my story, going to go over to the range, meet Mark. You guys have met Mark before, and shoot my 41 mag for the first time, Model 57, Smith & Wesson Model 57. Some of you saw me show that before. 41 Magnum. It is, in my opinion, I know there's other people going to disagree, but I'm an old style guy. I'm old school. I like, I'll get to that in a second. I like revolvers, to be honest, and I like guns made out of metal. What's this thing that Smith has come out with now? There's something or other they call it the metal. Like it's, wow, hey, everybody's raving about it because it's made out of metal, instead of plastic. And I've always I carry a plastic gun sometimes, yes I do. But now that we're getting into cooler weather, I'll go back to my 1911s. Yes, but I don't like plastic holsters. I don't like plastic guns put in plastic holsters. I like good metal guns in leather holsters. Matter of fact, I just got in the new cross draw holster for my Model 57, and I'll be showing you. I'll probably make one. Maybe I'll put it on here. I don't know. Maybe I'll put it on Patreon, which I'll put shooting the first through the Model 57. I'll do a video on that, and I'll do a shoot on the TSOSH 1911 and probably do a review on that. I don't know whether I'll do it here or on Patreon, but if you're on Patreon, you're going to get it no matter what. And if you're on YouTube, you might not. But yeah, I just, and so I'll probably make a video on how to treat a leather holster when you get a new one and how to make it fit just right, because there's nothing like a leather holster. Okay, is that enough? I think that's all the news of the day. By the way, it looks like I saw a headline that apparently they've reached some kind of decision on the railroad strike. Didn't I tell you? Told you that yesterday, right? I don't think it's going to happen. If Republicans were in charge, it would happen. But Democrats, they can't afford to have a problem right now. So I don't think that rail strike is going to happen. Whatever the company that was that interrupted grain shipments today, if they're still going to interrupt, and that's still going to cause a problem. Any delay in grain shipments is going to cause a hiccup in the system, and it's a hiccup that some people are going to, spend some time and money overcoming. Now to the story. The importance of fitting in and the dangers of not. Yesterday, or was it yesterday? Whatever it was. I showed the patches that I got from the guy up in Wyoming Highway Patrol and Guernsey, Wyoming Police Department. And some of you may know that I've said if you are in that brother sisterhood of first responders or military, and you'd like to send me a patch from your department, I'm putting together a patch board that I'll put up in my office, and I love to have them, and I've gotten a bunch in, and thank you guys so much. From an old dog, it means a lot to me, and someday I put it together and everybody will get to see that board up behind me. But I had a guy ask, he says, I think it was over on Patreon, he says, do you consider state corrections officers part of the brotherhood of law enforcement? I says, you bet. We're all a part of the same system. We do different jobs. Now, there's no way in the world that I would ever want to be a corrections officer. But then there's no way in the world I'd ever want to be a firefighter either, And firefighters would not want to be cops, and corrections officers would not want to be cops or fires. It's not that one's better than another. It's that they're different. But yes, we're all part of the same system. No, I don't want a patch from a guy that runs an ice cream truck. But you're part of the system, and definitely so. And I answered him, You bet. And so I said, okay, patch is going to be on the way. So yeah, any of you guys out there that work in, city, county jails, state prisons, federal prisons, it doesn't matter, you're all part of it, I haven't had a lot of friends who work. I've known, I've passed, I've dealt with a lot because of a job that I used to have, and I'll tell you the story about that right now. But yes, thank you so much. So all of you guys who are part of the club, I'd love to have your patches. Okay, now, I spent some time during my career on what was called the Warrants and Fugitive Unit, Fugitive Apprehension. About 2 weeks out of every month, we'd go after the guys who were local, and hunt down the people that had warrants on them, bring them in, and then about two weeks out of every month, we'd travel. And what that entailed would be somebody get caught in another jurisdiction on one of our warrants. They'd arrest them, and then they'd call us and say, hey, we got your guy, do you want to come out and get him? And we'd always, usually say yes, felonies. So yeah, a felony, we're always going to go get them. Misdemeanor trap, no, we don't do that stuff. So anyway, and I had the opportunity to go and bring people back from a lot of places. Now, I never went back east. I never went east of Chicago. I mainly did everything west. My partners and I pretty much were west of the Mississippi. So, and I brought a lot of people back from California and, Nevada and Arizona and Utah and Colorado and New Mexico and Texas and Oklahoma, I brought a lot of people back. So I had a lot of opportunities to see the different facilities. It's very interesting. Usually it's not as interesting as, it's not as interesting as watching a movie about prisons, right? But it can be. There are depressing places, man. But probably the most depressing one I was ever in, and the time that I was probably the most nervous, shall I say, uncomfortable, whatever, all the years that I was on, is when I had to go down to the Missouri State Penitentiary in Jefferson City, Missouri, called Jeff City, or people who were in just called it Jeff, just got out of Jeff. At that time that I went down there, it was the maximum security prison for Missouri before they put in a new one at Potosi. This place was like a dungeon. Much of it above ground, some of it underground. It was built in 1836. It has since been decommissioned. I might try to find a picture of it and put it up as the thumbnail here. We'll see. So anyway, we had to run down there and bring a guy back up to testify, if I recall correctly, in some case anyway, in Kansas City. And my partner it wasn't my real partner, but the person who was with me that day was a female deputy. Not that that's, you'll see why that's important. Kind of. So no big deal, because when you go to pick up a prisoner from someplace, you usually go, and it depends on the size of the facility. Some will have intake, and some will have out. And some places it's the same place, and the larger places it's going to be different. And probably some of the funniest ones I ever had was out of L.A. and Cook County in Chicago. But maybe I'll tell those stories sometime. So anyway, we drove down, no big deal. It was, a couple-hour drive down to Jeff City. We went down there, we had lunch, then we went over to the prison to pick our guy up. Well, this place was so old, we kind of had to find our way back around, and it's like driving through an old castle, an old stone castle. You can imagine, it was built in 1836 from stone that was quarried on site by a guy I think I heard that the stonecutter who was in charge of it also did the Capitol. I'm not sure. Missouri came into the Union in the 1830s sometimes. So we drive around this back, and there's this little door. And usually, you go to most places, and there will be signs everywhere: reception, intake, visitors, all these things. No, we were driving around looking for a place to go, and there's this one little sign next to this. It did look like a door to a dungeon, and a little light in a cage above the door, and a little sign that I don't remember what it said, but it indicated that that's probably where I should go in. So we go in there, and it's in this. It was lit by several 40-watt bulbs. And you go in, there's a couple of guys milling around, a couple of the corrections officers. Yeah, what do you want? Well, I showed him the paperwork. We're here to get so-and-so. And he says, all right. He says, he checks it, and he says, okay. And then he says, she's got to stay here, but I'll show you where to go. And I'm thinking, what? So, he says, go through this gate right here, and I forget what they call it, but it's one of those areas. One of you guys, if any of you work in a jail or a prison, go ahead and tell me what this is called. Where you go through one gate and then it's got a lock before the next one opens, right? It's not my specialty, so I don't know. He says, go down in there, and as soon as this one shuts behind you, then that one will be open. I said, well, wait a minute, aren't you bringing him out here? He says, no, you got to go in there and get him. I said, well, you're not coming with me? He says, no, we ain't coming with you. He says, check your gun over there. So I had to lock up my gun. Obviously, you always have to do that when you go into a place. He says, go down there, and here's this area between the two gates, and it's lit by a 20-watt bulb, it seems, It's like you're in a horror movie. And we're now somewhat, I don't think we're underground, but it feels like it. He said, go down there, go through that, and when that other gate opens, you take a right. You walk down this long hallway, and then you're going to take another right, and then you're going to walk down another long hallway, and then you're going to get to some steps. Go at those steps. There will be an intercom for you to push, and tell them who you are and who you're here to get. I go, man. So I says, well, all right. So I step through the first gate, and it slams, and if you've never had a prison door slam behind you, it's got a definite sound to it, especially one was built in the 1830s, probably. So it's a different sound. I've been in the newer ones, and it's different. Walk to the next one. Door slams behind me, like I say. Next one opens up, and I step through, and that one slams behind me. So now I've got two doors between me and my gun. And I look down this hallway. And if that Sally port, or whatever you might call it, if it was lit by 20-watt bulbs, this hallway is lit by 10-watt bulbs. It just gets darker and darker. So I start walking down this hallway. And here I am. Well, I'll tell you how I was dressed in a minute, because that's the funny part. Walking down this hallway. Now, off to the sides of this hallway are other hallways, short little hallways. And as I look down them as I'm passing, there's people back in there moving around. And I'm looking, and I'm realizing these aren't correctional officers. These are inmates. Here I am walking down this hallway, and I'm dressed in a plum-colored double knit blazer, because back then that was cool, with white stitching on it, a white shirt, a double knit tie of some kind, probably gray slacks, and shiny shoes. Screaming cop, right? I mean, I know I don't look like a lawyer. screaming. Cop. Not me, but my clothes. Screaming. Cop. So I'm walking down here. I'm saying, fuck. Excuse me, I almost said a bad word, but that was what was in my mind. I'm down. Okay, there's nothing between these guys and me. And I don't know this place. You know, so I keep walking. I pass a number of these hallways. I get to the end. There's a jog to the right. I go to the right. Finally, there's another jog to the left. Same thing. Finally, I get to these stairs. These concrete stairs, they go up. It's a long ways. It's I don't know, 20. I could be wrong. It's been a long time. I don't remember, but it seemed like it was a very, very tall stairway. Huge gate, right? Iron bars. I get up there, and I'm looking out into a big area full of inmates, and on the other side of this big room, behind what I assume is ballistic glass, are the corrections officers looking out, watching out over this area, right? So there's no officers in that area. They're all up there in that little fishbowl up there. So I push the button. Voice comes. Yeah, who are you? I say, Deputy Sheriff Smith, Jackson County Sheriff's Department, here to pick up so-and-so. You got your paperwork? And I see the guy talking to me is up there in the fishbowl, right? I pick it up because I'm irritated with his attitude. I'm already irritated. I'm like, yeah. All right. Come on through. I hear, that gate slides open. I go, what the hell? So I walk in there, and everybody's turning around to look at me, right? Because, I mean, I look like a shiny dime in the middle of that place. I walk through there, and I'm looking around without, I'm not challenging anybody, but I'm acting like I don't care, Nod, but I'm trying to see, do I know any of these guys? Are any of them here because of me? So I get across this area, because the guy said, go over to that gate over there. So I go over to that gate, and it goes, ding. It opens up. I step through into another area. But now I'm in a hallway to where I don't see any officers there either. I do see a bunch of inmates. And I forget exactly, it was laid out, there was a door on the left, and that's where I was supposed to wait, for them to bring us. So I stood there for a long time, just going, oh man, okay. If this happens, I'm going to do this. If that happens, I'm going to do that. If this happens, I'm going to do that, right? You had to be there. And after forever went by, they finally bring me my guy, and now I've got to walk him back in cuffs, carrying my little paperwork, right, in my plum-colored sport jacket, back through this area, through the doors, through the gates, back down into the catacombs, and back clear to my place. I tell you, I was a bit uncomfortable the whole time. I'd like to tell you what I really thought, but I can't put it on here. We got out. I got him back, brought him back to Kansas City. And man, if that wasn't a lesson on the importance of gray man, the importance of fitting in and not sticking out, probably one of the best lessons I ever had. So, lesson there. Try to fit in. I'm going to tell a story, probably on Patreon, about, and I think I told the one on here about my first night undercover where we almost bought it. Several years later, I took a new guy back into that same bar and almost had a large problem again. Washed him out, but I'm going to tell you all what happened to the guy that I washed out. I think I'm going to do that over on Patreon. So anyway, try to fit in. If you can't fit in, pray hard and be ready to go down fighting, I guess, you know, because the alternative wouldn't be any good. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed that story and you know, got a little bit out of it. I'm going to go back and do a little more gardening back there before I get ready to go over to the range. If you're not with us on Patreon, we'd love to have you over there. The way to come over there is down below. There's a link down there in the information section and a pinned comment. And also remember that these videos are always brought to you by the Stonemont series, my books about preparing for, surviving, and reclaiming a new life after a total collapse. And these are also available. It's the reversion, the revival, the renewal, an appeal to heaven, and the blessings of freedom. And yes, at least one person asks me every video, where's number 6? I'm writing it. Matter of fact, that's what I'm going to do after I get done a little more gardening and then writing some more and then getting ready to go to the range. So these are available on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle, or they're available from me personally, an autographed copy. And the way to get those is also right down below in the information section and a pinned comment. So if you haven't read them, I think you'd like them. They're about good stuff. Somebody called me last night and said, you know, I'm reading your books again because I prefer the world that I read about in there to the world that we live in today. And I agree. You know, when I get to writing, I really enjoy the writing because I get to put together a world that I think works better than this one. So if you'd like those, they're down there. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. So get out there and do something. Prepare something today, and it'll help you, because we want everybody to live well tomorrow. Okay? You all have a good day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.